Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. Thanks for joining me once again. Today, I am going to share my review of the Warhammer 40k Imperium Maledictum Starter Set from Cubicle 7 Games. This box set is available now. It carries an MSRP of $39.99, which will actually include the PDF if you order from Cubicle 7 Games. If you want to just get the PDF alone, you can do so over at DriveThruRPG for $19.99. All that said, let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got the starter set for Warhammer 40k Roleplay Imperium Maledictum. Few things to mention before we get stuck in. First of all, my friends over at Cubicle 7 Games were kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this review with you. It's important you know that. We're also not going to look at each and every page of the two booklets that are in here, as well as the pre-gens and player aids, but I do want to give you a good feel for what you're going to find inside this box. And then lastly, there is an adventure within. So if you are a player and your game master has picked up the starter set, maybe they're considering picking up the starter set, by all means, I would certainly recommend you probably tune out now, because even though I'm going to stay mostly spoiler free, there are going to be some spoilers possibly as I flip through, and you don't want surprises of the adventure ruined simply because you were watching this video. Now, of course, before you go, if your game master is kicking around picking up the starter set, let them know about this video so they can approach this and make a far more informed buying decision. All right, let's jump on in. So I do want to point out, I like how we've got artwork on the interior of the box top, as well as the box bottom. We have a system map here. I thought that was kind of cool. Now, granted, we don't have the mini GM screen like we had with the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4th edition starter set, but still, not just blank cardboard. So I like that. We do have a set of percentile dice. I like the color scheme. Will point out, a little tough to make out sometimes. I think the number font is a little too blocky. And sadly enough, we only get one set, which is what we saw in the Whiff-Rip starter set. But nowadays, when we see starter sets in this sort of price range, they normally have 5 or 6 dice. I would have liked to have seen at least one other set of percentile dice just to make life easier for the game master as well as the players. We also have Read This First, which is going to tell us what's in the box, as well as give us a little breakdown of the Macarian sector, which is where Imperium Maledictum is taking place. Also get a little information about the Emperor and the Imperium. Something I want to point out, and this has been discussed on my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, and that is Warhammer 40k role-playing releases and how intimidating they can be for game masters and players. And if you are someone who has absolutely no knowledge of the setting or the decades of lore that is out there, don't worry about it. One thing that can be intimidating for a game master is all of that lore, and then they feel like they're obligated to learn as much of it as they can, so they're going to end up info dumping on their players. You don't need to know anything about Warhammer 40k to get into Imperium Maledictum. It is set in a specific sector, so all you need to do is learn a bit about that. So keep that in mind. So we also have some tokens, dual-sided, nice thick cardstock here. We have 6 pre-generated characters, and we've got a nice range of characters. As far as the adventure that's contained within the starter set, I would certainly recommend at least 4 characters to be part of that adventure. But to kind of give you an idea of what these pre-gens look like, We're going to have information about the character, some quotes. We get their character sheet here in the center. Breakdown of what is this character sheet? What are these things here? So we get that, as well as the background, such as the goals, the connections, and the secrets of this player character. Nicely put together pre-gens. And as I mentioned, we have 6 of them. Give you a peek real quick. We've got a bunch of player aids. And when I say a bunch, no joke, we've got a bunch of these player aids. And these are very useful because they're going to be right at the fingertips of both the players and the game master. So we get information about how to resolve tests, how to basically do things, difficulty levels, success levels, combat, critical hits and wounds. We get psychers, gear, and so forth. Really nicely done, and nice thick cardstock here too. Then we got 2 booklets. One is going to be the adventure book, The Blazing Seraph, which is going to include our introductory adventure. And the way the adventure is designed is so that the game master and the players can learn aspects of the mechanics of the game as they're playing. So to kind of give you an idea of the action resolution, the tests, this is a percentile-based role-playing game. So your character will have attributes as well as skills that are presented as numbers from 0 to even over 100. And what you're going to be doing is you're rolling your percentile dice. You're looking to roll equal to or less than that attribute or that skill. And if so, you've probably succeeded. Now, we do also have success levels, which can kind of be tricky for people, but it's really actually easy to figure out. All you got to do is subtract the tens die from the attribute or the skill tens, and then you'll know what kind of success or failure level you're looking at. So as an example, if you had a 50 in a skill and then you rolled and you got a 35, that would be a success level of 2. If you got a 70, that would be it's a success level, but it would be -2. So really, it's a failure level. And of course, there are ways to compare those to understand exactly what happened. It's not as tricky as it might sound. And then, of course, we have the adventure. So the adventure itself is bringing the player characters in as investigators, because that is kind of the theme of Imperium Maledictum, that the player characters are there to root out corruption and sedition and mutants and xenos and so forth. This is not a high-powered tier role-playing game. Not to say that the player characters are weaklings to start off with. No, not at all. But you are not taking on the roles of space marines in this game. So it's important to keep that in mind. I like it. It is kind of the Warhammer fantasy roleplay equivalent to Warhammer 40K. So I like that quite a bit. Although the player characters in Warhammer fantasy roleplay tend to be a little shiftier than you'll find in Imperium Maledictum. So the player characters are brought on board to investigate this explosion at this acid refinery that had a single survivor. And it was such a devastating accident. People are shocked that this person survived. So the player characters are actually brought in to find out, is this some sort of a miracle? Is this survivor some sort of a saint, or are they a heretic? Is this all just a scam? Is this bogus? So I like that quite a bit. This is a very boots on the ground sort of adventure. It takes place on a hive world, which you'll find Imperium Maledictum's adventures are going to kind of focus on that urban locale, maybe not necessarily always hive worlds, but it is focused from what I've seen to this point on adventures that are kind of down in the dirt, kind of gritty. And I do like that. I think that is a nice change of pace from the high power tier adventuring of Warhammer 40K Roleplay Wrath and Glory. From what I've seen, the adventures for Imperium Maledictum tend to take on a more personal level, which I thought is very cool. So as you can see, pretty long adventure here. It's over 40 pages. We've got a bit of a bestiary with some of the various different NPCs and important NPCs that the player characters are going to encounter. I would have liked to have seen more of the approach with the starter set for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, though, because there was an adventure there, and we had a few other kind of encounters and adventure nuggets tossed into the mix. I think there was a bit more gaming involved with that starting adventure book than we have with Imperium Maledictum. But the adventure which is contained within is interesting, and it's got some nice twists and turns, and it really nicely presents the various different mechanics for the game master and players to learn in a relatively straightforward way. So that is the adventure book. And then we've got the guide to the hive of Rokarth, which is where the adventure takes place. And this is similar to the Ubersreich book that we got in the Wifrip starter set. So this is going to give us a lot of background, a lot of information about this hive world where the introductory adventure is taking place. And this is going to give you the opportunity to flesh things out, as well as give the game master the opportunity to create more adventures that are taking place or build off of that introductory adventure as well. So really nicely done. And the production quality of this book, you'll notice this is a little bit different as far as this book here and the adventure book. This is a saddle stitch. This is not. So I thought that was kind of unusual that we have two different production types on the books themselves. These should hold up pretty well. Paper stock's pretty nice on both. So as long as you take care of this book, it should hold up very, very nicely. All right, so that is a peek at what's inside the Warhammer 40K Roleplay Imperium Maledictum starter set from Cubicle 7 Games. Let's swing on over to the other camera so I can share some final thoughts as well as my review score. As far as the Imperium Maledictum starter set, I gotta say, I really like that there's a lot of content in the box for an MSRP of $39.99. The adventure is solid. It's got some nice twists and turns to it, and it does a very nice job of introducing the game system to game masters and players. The Hive book is pretty well detailed. I like that quite a bit as well. I happen to like Imperium Maledictum because I dig how its stories are more on a personal level. It's more boots on the ground. It's a little more gritty than, say, Wrath and Glory because the power level is so much lower, which I'm totally cool with. I like that quite a lot. Do wish that we had an extra set of dice, and I also wish that there was a little bit more adventuring contained in the adventure book. As I had mentioned in the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay starter set, we had an adventure, but we also had some adventure nuggets. We had some additional encounters to roll out there as well. We don't have that here. We've got the one relatively long adventure, which I do appreciate, but that's kind of it. And then we get the background book about the hive world, which is also very nicely done. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, I wish there was a bit more adventuring in this starter set than what we've got. But having said that, compared to other starter sets that are out there, you will find you are going to get multiple sessions out of the adventure that's contained within. Some starter sets out there, you're lucky if you're going to get a full 4-hour session out of the introductory adventure. So there is that. I do really like the Imperium Maledictum Starter Set. So on a scale of 0 to 10, I give the starter set an 8 out of 10. All right, that is it for this time out. If you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. It'll not only let you know when I share videos such as this review, it'll also inform you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. If you like the Gaming Gang and feel we're a valuable resource, please take a look at our Patreon page. And if you'd like, go ahead and join our Discord server. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Until I see you next time, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.